We're just going to test some resolution, see how this video looks just real quick before we go into full production. Let's see if we can find something with a decent rifle here. And we'll take that, see what we can do here. Alright. Let's follow me all up to the hill. See if anybody else is on the server, so we're not disturbing them. Well, we got one other person, so let's just be kind to our neighbors. And roll tide, a beautiful day to take some time out here on the range. If you're not familiar with the surroundings, well, this just happens to be a CSA drill camp. So, you want to know why the Revs have some of the finest shooters? Well, it just so happens that the CSA drill camp has some of the best presentation of targets there is. So now I'm strolling up, you can see, I'm strolling up here to the right. A lot of people go down there where the targets are, but guess what? That ain't going to make you a better shooter. You want to get a good shooter, get yourself a good distance from the targets. That way, you can adjust your sight picture, you can adjust some of your trajectory, figure out exactly what works for you. So now me, see, I come up here, there's a nice little spot. See these little flowers up here? Yeah, those guys right there. That's a good spot to kneel down. If you look out there, you can see all those targets presented in front of us. Now those out yonder, they're at about the 3.5 range. Here we go. Let it bobble. There we go. Those are about 3.5. So these guys right about here, about 200 yards. So this gives us a good range for our long distance shooting. It looks like we got a good sight picture here. So we're going to sit down, reload, and get this thing started. So sight picture is an important part of shooting. A lot of people like to shoot over or do what's called a holdover. That's not my preference. I prefer to set my sights a little bit higher, and that way I can shoot essentially under the target, so the trajectory pretty much flies above that line and strikes the target. So those 3.5s all the way out there, you'll see we're kind of set right now to 200. There we go. We're going to come up to 5. So now those are 3.5, but what this 5 gives me is I can see that sight, that target in my sight picture the entire time. Just kind of float underneath it, which is good because it's a lot easier to kind of center than the alternative. So I'll go back to 300, which would mean I would have to hold at the top of the target. And as you can see, we start kind of losing it. Now, this infield has a really nice kind of sight B, so it gives a little bit more. Some of the other rifles with the musket barrel in the way, you're going to run into trouble. So I'm going to set this up to 500, pretty much the way I like to shoot, and just kind of show you what it does. Give me a second here. I'm just going to take a quick pause. running out of breath holding that big chunk of iron up. Give it a couple seconds to stabilize. And now we'll get back on target. So now let it float around a little bit. And a lot of people say that shoot in the first 3 seconds because you can see you stabilize right there. Now it's going to start to drop, slowly drop. Now I actually like this because it's easier to just kind of push up gently and let it come back down to get yourself on target. And then give her a little squeeze. Now that is not a bad shot. So let's get another load in and change our sight picture and show you what it looks like to do the same thing pretty much at that distance set at 300, which is about the closest. So one thing I don't care for about these old muskets is they kind of skip. So you got a 300 and a 500, but you got no 400, and it tends to be that most of the long distance shots pretty much out there in the field seem to be at about 400. 400 would be perfect. That could be a design element, but that's all right. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop down to 3. And what this is going to mean is we need to do a holdover. Now, if you're not familiar with a holdover, you pretty much have to find your target and then hold your sight just above it so that it drops. So and that can be a little bit of a pain in the butt. So we're going to do it out here on that same target. So we got to get up just a little bit higher for our holdover. See, we missed. Let's reload and try that again. Now, honestly, I think I pulled that one slightly to the left. If you were watching when I squeezed the trigger and the fire went off, that was slightly high and to the left. So with this, we kind of need that front sight post right at the top of the bar in order to drop that in there. Because again, that's 350 yards out there. We've got a sight set for 300. So that means we're definitely going to have to hold over. So strategy I like to do is if you look at those targets, you can kind of see the trees behind them. find a nice little spot of color above that target in those trees, and that's what you really want to aim for. So, not a bad shot. So, this is just some of the things I wanted to show you. In later videos, we'll kind of go through some of the other weapons, but honestly, with 53, that's pretty much the best choice to get familiar with. The Enfield has good range, good distance, can carry a bayonet, reloads relatively quickly, but again, you can kind of dial this in. So that's all for right now. We'll get back to you a little bit later.